PK Subban joining us on the Ray and Darren Hockey Podcast. PK, you are in California. You're living that lifestyle. You're very, very busy, even in a pandemic. You seem like you're clearly making the best of it, but you're pushing through, right? And you've got so much going on, including tub time. You're kind enough to delay tub time here a little bit to join us. What's that all about?
Well, we have nothing but time on our hands. So I guess the question for everyone is just how you spend your time. And, over the past few days, I've been getting a lot of calls, just obviously with things picking up and things starting to slowly open. Is there going to be a hockey season? Is there not? And I've been training. Like I haven't stopped training. This is like week 9 for me. So I've been training out here every day and just kind of taking care of it. But yeah, I've been doing some other fun stuff with Lindsay. We like to try to keep busy. And I think, without being able to golf and do all these things, I guess we just have more time to work on our production company and our foundations and so on and so forth.
Who's the creative mind to it, or do both of you create to it? Do you have a team that helps you? Like, you got so much different stuff going.
Yeah, I think that I have a pretty big team. My team has grown over the years. And as you guys know, as you get older as a professional athlete, you have to kind of take more and more things off your plate, as you grow a family, and even just with your career, because you want to make sure that you're prepared to play and you're able to be accountable to the team and the people that pay you. So, I have a lot of people, and Lindsay's got people that do a lot of the work for us, a lot of the heavy lifting to maintain that. Like my foundation team's got at least 7 or 8 people on it. I know that on my production team, I have 2 people, one from 3 Arts and WME, and Josh Levy and Luke Maxwell, and then Jill Smoller, who's managed a lot of my stuff in the U.S., Donnie Meehan, who's my agent, and for hockey, and also manages a lot of my Canadian relationships now. And aside from that, though, it's like a team of probably 10, 11, 12 people. So, and they take on that. But, for us, it's a lot of it is around the same thing. It's around our social media, like I said, our production companies and foundation. We don't really step too much outside of that stuff. So
now, how did you grow into it? Like, did you set, like, you got an unbelievable personality. You love to talk. You love to, I like to talk, and that's how you get into this stuff. But like, did you set out to do it, or did it just sort of evolve and then you go, hey, I'm onto something and I want to chase it a bit?
I think that it just sort of happened organically. When I first came into the league, the NHL is a lot different now than it was 11 years ago when I started playing pro hockey. And I'm sure for you guys, seeing the way that the game is today,
crazy.
After your years of experience in playing and watching the game, and you guys do such a great job on TV, but you guys have watched so much hockey and watched the players change. And I think that, for me, I've always been a high energy guy. I mean, just the opportunity to play in the NHL. Like, I didn't have hockey in my family, right? I didn't have any hockey bloodline. So, for me, it was a big deal making it to the NHL and playing. And it's an even bigger deal when you're playing for the Montreal Canadiens and you're under that microscope the whole time. And I think that, the way I came into the league, wanting to bring a Stanley Cup back to Montreal, and I had a lot of fans support, and it's only grown over the years. And I guess with that comes an expectation. Fans want to see you continue to play well, but they want to get to know you as well. And during that time, social media has evolved. And I remember, I can't take all the credit, for some of the brand building stuff, but I remember Cabby, said to me, This was years ago, he goes, PK, you got to get on Twitter. Like, everybody's on Twitter. You got to get on. And I remember when I got on Twitter that first day, I had like 50,000 followers. And right away I was like, I didn't know so many people cared. And I guess it just sort of started from there. And now I'm pretty happy with, the foundation I built and the brand that I have so far.
Well, you're doing great work, PK. There's no question about that on so many different levels. How close are you paying attention to what's going on around the National Hockey League? I assume pretty close. Now, there's a lot of speculation that, it will be a 24-team format when the NHL resumes to wrap up 2019-20. Won't include the New Jersey Devils. That's too bad. But you still have a strong opinion based on your experience in the National Hockey League. Are you in favor of resuming in this fashion and the idea of playing in hub cities at this stage?
You know what? It's I've always played paid close attention to the NHL. And, you know, when I'm not playing in the playoffs, I try to call games, get on TV, try to get some experience because I just love the game. I love being around it. Even though I have other interests, the game of hockey is what has allowed me to really be able to express my interest in other things and be able to do those things. So I owe a lot to the game, and I guess that's why I continue to try to be involved in as many ways as I can when it comes to the game of hockey. You know, whether it's hosting the trivia show, whether it's doing stuff at the awards. But I mean, I'd love to be an owner one day in the NHL. Like I love the game. I want to try to see the game continue to move down a path of growing. And out of all the sports leagues, I think it's got the most potential. But you know, at this time, it's so tough, Dregs and Ray, just watching families go through this time and small businesses close down. But sports is what brings happiness to people. And I know people love sports. And I know that Gary at the league and the Players Association when they come together and make a decision on what it is, it's going to be what's best for the game and what's best for everyone. So, you know, I'm in favor of what everybody else wants. And that's to see hockey and to see people safe.
You know, PK, you said about, you know, how much you love the game and how much you like to do different things. Does the noise from around bug you? You know, like, because it always seems to be, but.
Yeah.
Because you put yourself out there.
Yes.
And you take some kicks in the shins. Like, does it get old?
Well, you know what? I'm not perfect, Ray. And, you know, I guess fans are passionate, and fans will always be passionate about their players and teams. I think that I wouldn't be doing myself a good service by acting as if I'm perfect and that everything that I'm doing, everyone should like. You know, I know that people are going to always have questions, about things that I may do, but the reality is that no one puts more time than me into my craft every day. I work every day at my craft, whether it's the money I spend on treatment for my body, the training, all of those things. And you're right, there is a lot of noise. You know, people oftentimes, because you have more than one interest, don't believe that you're fully committed to just being a hockey player. And I think that's completely unfair. Like, you know, you can have multiple interests and still want to be the best and do everything to be the best at what you do. For me and some players, it's different. For some players, they can only focus on one thing, and that thing is to play hockey. You know, for me, what makes me a better player is taking my mind off the game when it's not time to be about it. You know, I watch my game film just like the great players in the game. I study other players. I work at my game just like everybody else. But there's 24 hours in a day, and I like to give some of that time to my foundation and to people that need my help and building my production company, because I love to tell stories, about great things that happen in the world and in sports. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the noise, as far as does it get to me, I mean, it's been 11 years. I've been playing pro hockey, 10 years in the OHL, played 6 years in Montreal. I've heard a lot of noise, and I'm still here. So, I think that I take everything with a grain of salt. I don't take myself too seriously. So, I oftentimes look at ways to improve. I'm still learning as a human as well to get better and as a hockey player also.
Okay, that's a great segue. I was going to ask you, you had, for your standards, a really tough year. It just didn't go your way.
Yeah.
You said at the end of, just actually a couple of weeks ago, you said, look, I still want to be one of the best defensemen in the league. So how do you, with the stuff that you do, get yourself back to what you can be? I mean, you're only 31 now. It's not like you're 28.
Exactly. Well, and you're exactly right. And I think that's the tough thing, Ray, is that being completely frank, I think that it's unfair for some of the comments that people have made and how people have chosen to evaluate my season. I mean, there's no question that it's not a season that I'm accustomed to, but there's a lot of variables that go into the season. You know, going to a new team, the youngest team in the league, our coach gets fired, 2 months into a season, players, Taylor Hall gets moved. There's a lot of things that went on, and we're trying to do everything on the go. Jack Hughes is 18 years old. We're trying to teach him about the league. We have Boquist, who's 19 years old. There's young players. Nico's a young player. So there's a lot of bigger things going on, with our organization and our team, not just the way I'm playing, but there's no question that, I know that I can be better, and I will be better than what I was this year. I also believe that, listen, I went from playing on a team that was a President's Trophy team that I played a big part of, a team that went to the Stanley Cup final, that went on some deep runs. And, it's different when you shift from a team like that right to New Jersey. It's a different style. It's different expectations every night. So, there was a lot of learning for me as well. But there's no question that I have to go into next season expecting our team to be better. All those young players will have another year of experience under their belt. And I think that I'm also more comfortable just being in New Jersey, understanding our system, the way we need to play, and also the way I need to play with my teammates. That was probably the toughest transition, for me. Even tougher than when I first got into the NHL was adjusting to the situation in New Jersey, and it was definitely tough.
All right, so we're going to get to some heavy stuff in a moment. I mean, Akim Aliu, obviously had some strong comments, very important words in a piece this week in the Players Tribune. But there is a commonality between Ray Ferraro and PK Subban, and that's the fact that both you guys have better halves who are star Olympians. And I'm going to guess, because Ray on this podcast, PK, has talked openly about how Cami Granato is better at a lot of things than he is. And he's kind of, he'll say, I've never beat her in Scrabble one single time.
15 years,
how
PK,
long is it?
Not even garbage. 15 years, not one win.
So how many things is Lindsey Vonn better at than PK Subban?
Wow. Well, one thing's for sure, Lindsay is definitely not better than me at Snarps. So we play the card. You guys know that I taught the card game to Lindsay, and I think I'm sitting at 20 wins right now. Lindsay's closing the gap. She's at 15 wins now. She beat me twice last night. So She's not better at me than Snarps. But I will say this. I share the same thing with you, Ray. Lindsay is the most competitive person I probably ever met. And I know that Lindsay, water skiing, she's unbelievable. Anything on the water, she's unbelievable at it. With all the knee surgeries that she's had, everything, it's unbelievable the stuff that she can still do. And I work out with her every day. So, in the gym, she's really competitive. But things that she's better than me at, I mean, the list goes on and on. Guys, I wish, what isn't she good at? She's pretty much good at everything. It sucks.
The one thing that I found is so when Cami and I started to date, I was like, I've never had anybody call me on my stuff. Like another athlete. She's like, are you kidding me? Stop. I was like,
You should see her in the gym. Like, I'll be doing workouts I'll be doing certain exercises I've been doing for 15 years. And she'll be like, you're not doing that right. It's like, how do I sit here and tell her that she's wrong? Like she knows what she's doing.
Now you turn your hat the other way around, and I'm reading it. It says change the game. What's that about?
Yeah. So this hat, I actually had these. Okay, so I have a deal with Adidas, but this is a CCM hat. It's a hockey hat that I made with my logo on the front. And change the game was something that I trademarked a long time ago. And the reason why was because it stood for a lot of things that I stood for. Changing the game wasn't about changing the game for better. It is, but it's also changing how athletes are perceived. So with things that you do, also, like I said, all the people that I help with my foundation, that's a part of changing the game, because I did it at an age that's not traditionally, prevalent in sports. I started my foundation when I was 23. Most athletes wait until later on in their career to do things, or when they're retired. I wanted to do that while I was playing because I felt I could have the biggest impact that way. Also, changing the game on the ice, bringing a different dynamics to how the game was played, and just reminding me of that every time I step on the ice, that there's someone in the stands that's never seen me play. And I want to make sure that person gets their money worth. So, for me, that's what that stands for.
Well, Akim Aliu did, in his piece in the Players Tribune, he challenged the culture of hockey, right? And he said it's not just racism, it's misogyny, it's bullying. And he's calling for changes from the grassroots level up. How big of a voice should an NHL player, those who support Akim or anyone in sport have? Because as we know, as we talked about earlier in the podcast, sports can be such a positive distraction, but also a leader in so many areas. So how important is this piece and this most recent push by Akim Aliu?
Well, I think first and foremost, every single player in the National Hockey League, black, white, yellow, purple, brown, doesn't matter, has had different experiences through their career, through their childhood, through their experiences. No one can walk in my shoes. I can't walk in your shoes, Ray, Dregs. We can't walk in Akim's shoes. Everybody has to walk in their own shoes every day. And I think that it's good that people continue to tell their stories and bring light to things that are happening. Now, one thing I'll say is that I've always been asked questions about racism and different things in hockey, but not only just in hockey, but just in life. And a lot of times those questions come from other athletes in different sports, because they know that there's not very many black hockey players. Mm-hmm. And, for me, I always choose the route of trying to build bridges. When I started my Blue Line Buddies program, I started the foundation and the donations to the hospital and all that stuff. When I started the Blue Line Buddies program, which was, bringing 4 officers to every game, 4 underprivileged youth from the community, whether it be in Nashville, where we started it, now obviously New Jersey. And my goal is to try to get this program to be as wide and as vast as it can, because I've seen so many, great rewards from it. I've seen officers take initiatives to help kids and do all that stuff and stay in contact with them. But I always believe that when there's a divide in our community, whether it be hockey or in the world or in your community, the city that you live in, whatever it is, how can we build bridges and how do we make things better? And I think that part of it is also challenging people. It is about challenging people, but it's also about understanding that people have education and people want to learn and be educated. And sometimes not everybody is aware of the things that you've gone through in your life. So, it's also how and what your approach is. I don't think there's a right or wrong approach. Everybody's approach is different based on the experiences that they have. And I think that, for me, I have so many teammates and players that I've played with that have been so supportive of me in my career, and coaches and GMs and minor hockey coaches and, people that don't look like me, but paved the way for me to get to the National Hockey League. George Burnett, if it wasn't for George Burnett, my junior coach, I don't think I'd be playing in the NHL today. So, I think that I didn't have a chance to read Akim's piece. I'm going to try to read it. I did have some friends reach out and tell me a little bit about it. I think that Akim's telling his story the way he feels best to tell it. And, who's anybody to tell him that he's wrong? I just think that as a group, I love the game of hockey. I love the game and what it's given to me and what it's given to my family. It's also our job. Our job is to make the game better, but it's also our job to protect the people in the game that have done a great job trying to help these issues go away. And I think we can't forget to talk about those people as well. And you know what? One thing I do know is that it's not just on the responsibility of the black players or players from different backgrounds in the league. It's of everyone. And from what I know, there's a lot of players that I played with, especially in New Jersey, that I've talked to, young players that would love to help and be a part of helping the diversity programs that the NHL wants to put out there and help those things evolve. And that's what we need.
PK, one last question, I guess, from me is, so there's so much of the focus just on the pro game, the NHL game, and we talk about the culture of hockey. How do we change the real culture of all of it to be, if we're trying to take a step forward from the youngest players? I mean, it's obviously important at the top end, but it's the youngest players because they become the next players and the next coaches and the next general managers. How can people like you, who have a big voice, help? Or can you?
Yeah, I think that it's got to be by committee. I think that there's obviously more individual. There's a smaller group of individuals that need to take more of a leadership role in an initiative. Sure. And I think that, listen, is there anybody out there who has all the answers for anything on how to fix everything? I don't think there is. So these things take time. I think that the number one thing is that as long as everybody's aware of the things that need to change, that's where you need to start. I guess where we can run into trouble sometimes in the game and seeing the game grow in a positive way is where we're not aware of it or where we pretend to not be aware of it. And I think that's where it's at. But, I'm a firm believer in understanding that you can't paint everybody with the same brush. And I believe that there's great people in the game of hockey, whether it's in grassroots or not. And listen, guys, I'll be the first to say I've had my moments in hockey that I haven't been happy with how I've been treated and it's happened. But those are specific individuals, you know, and I have to pinpoint those individuals and how those situations are handled. I've always taken the high road, and I've always believed in taking the high road. And that's what I teach kids. Listen, that kid, you know, that I sent that video out to a couple of years ago that went through it, my message to him was to take the high road, and that those people that said those things to him, they have the problem, not you. And I think that that's where it can be, is that we also want to teach kids that are hearing these things and how to deal with it. Because, you know, I think that is the most important information you can give, because you can't change the world. You're not going to change everybody. I mean, we can try. It's the real world. And there's people out there that don't want to change. There's people out there that don't want to talk about certain things. There's people out there that don't want to think differently than they've been accustomed to their whole lives. So we have to also teach the generation of kids coming up, black, white, or indifferent, of what's right and what's important. And not only above that, to be above it, not come down to the level of individuals that want to take shots at you or talk about certain things. But as far as growing the game through the grassroots level, it starts with coaches. But most importantly, it starts with parents. Parents have to teach their kids what's right and what's wrong. And that's where it starts. I ultimately believe that, you know, listen, as a parent, I know my mom and dad are obviously, my dad's very educated. My mom's very educated. These are great parents. But what they taught me as a kid is what's molded me into the person that I am today.
Well, they did terrific work. Really appreciate the message. Keep being who you are and keep doing what you do, because we enjoy every second of it. And thanks for taking the time, and we'll let you get on now to Tub Time.
Hey, listen, thanks, Ray, Dregs. Thanks for having me on. You guys do great work. I love listening to you guys. You know, one thing I appreciate about you guys do your research. You guys know your stuff. So keep doing that. Love watching you guys, and stay safe.
Yeah, you too, PK. Be well, eh?
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye now.